pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Holly. And now we'll have the mission statement read by Commissioner Carteret.
The mission of the Human Rights Commission of Palm Springs is to promote improved human relations, civic peace, intergroup understanding, and the full acceptance, respect, and participation of all persons in all aspects of community life so that we may be equal in the eyes of each other.
Thank you, Commissioner Carteret. And Lee, can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Janis?
Here.
Commissioner Brown? Tim called, said he was running a little late. Commissioner Elliott? Absent. Commissioner Bowens?
Here.
Commissioner Feingold?
Here.
Commissioner Zellnis?
Here.
Commissioner Cataract?
Here.
And Commissioner Guano?
Here.
And student member Holly Hunt.
Here.
On her day off, we might add. It's a school holiday.
Yes.
So we appreciate you coming, Holly. Thank you. Lee, do you have something to tell me about the agenda?
Yes, the agenda was posted according to the Brown Act on February 3rd.
Thank you very much. And now we open up for public comments, and we do have somebody who wants to speak, and I believe you have a card, Lee, right? Randy Shacker, you want to speak, and the timing is perfect. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, members of the commission. As president of Palm Springs Gay Veterans Chapter of American Veterans for Equal Rights, it is my distinct pleasure to make recognition to one of our unsung heroes of 2003, that is Human Rights Commission Chairperson Bill Feingold, for his contributions of outstanding and selfless support and service benefiting Palm Springs Gay Veterans Chapter causes, as well as those of National Over and of the Palm Springs area LGBT community. Your dedication means much to us. Thanks, Bill. You are our unsung hero.
Oh, thank you, Randy. Thank you very much, Randy. And I believe you have another presentation.
Well, let me just say that one of the reasons we are doing this is because of your purchase of the paver that we plan to dedicate on February 15th. That's Sunday at 1 p.m. behind the Leisure Center in Sunrise Park. We hope all of you can join us as we dedicate that LGBT Veterans paver. Now I have another presentation. This gentleman joined us at our Christmas meeting in 1999, and with his presence, he inspired us to undertake the projects that we have successfully completed between then and now, one being the LGBT Veterans Memorial at Desert Memorial Park. One is the diversity mural that the commission undertook and we participated in, and also this upcoming LGBT Veterans paver that we plan to install and dedicate at Sunrise Park Sunday, February 15th. So it is my great pleasure to present the Community Leader of the Year Award to the Honorable Ron Oden, Mayor, City of Palm
All
Springs.
right.
Good.
And now that was a real surprise, right? We kept that a surprise.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Randy. You should come to more meetings. Okay, any more public comments? Seeing no more public comments, we have to go on our list. It says follow-up regarding Stephen A. Figueroa's public comments to the commission last month. And I guess, do you want to answer that, Lee, or you want me to tell what happened?
Yes, following his comments, it was learned, or I learned, that there is an active federal lawsuit against the city regarding that issue, and we would be well advised to wait until that lawsuit is resolved before we do any action, if we are going to do any.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And now we have the approval of the minutes for January 12th and 22nd. Has everybody gotten a chance to read their minutes? Would somebody like to pass a motion to have these passed as they are?
So move that we, excuse me, approve the minutes from both the 12th and the 22nd.
Any seconds?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, both minutes for January 12th and 22nd are approved. Now we have reports. The chairman's report. Usually my report is short. I'm going to keep it short, but recently a lot of people are questioning what people on the commissions do. And maybe I don't share enough with you what I do all week when I'm not here. So I'm just going to read a little schedule of my next 2 weeks so you'll know that we are very busy here. Tomorrow I'm attending the kickoff of the Anti-Defamation League in Rancho Mirage, and I'm proud to say I've accepted a seat on their board for the Desert Advisory. Sunday, the 15th, I will be leading the pledge, and the public is invited. I've given each one of you a sheet. We are dedicating a paver to the gay and lesbian soldiers, people in the military, all people in the military, gay and lesbian. This is at the Morris Kite Tree, which is on Pavilion Way. It's right near where we also had a big part in having that mural painted. That's 1 o'clock this Sunday. And afterwards, there's a reception at Blame It on Midnight. And the public is invited. The more people that come, the better. February 18th, I will be meeting with Commander Hall of the Palm Springs Police Force to discuss the police, hate crimes, and I will be working out a date in March that the chief and I will be holding a forum either at Hunters or Toucans for the gay and lesbian community. On February 20th, I'm the guest speaker at the Log Cabin Republicans Dinner, and I'll be discussing the role of the Human Rights Commission in Palm Springs. And let's see, February 28th is Black History Parade, and I filled out all the papers, and we're all looking forward to being in the parade, and I think, Dorothy, you're going to tell us more about that in a minute. And 2 personal notes. Happy birthday to Dick Haskamp of the Street Bar, who does so much for the city. And not last, but this is my last statement, we wish a speedy and a good recovery to Robert Van Etten, who's in the hospital, and he has our love and prayers. And now I'll go to the vice chairman.
Good. I'm going to, because of the length of the agenda, I'd like to combine both the vice chair and the community relations chair reports together. We had an opportunity to meet with KWXY. I was on KPSI to talk about not only what the commission does, but give information with regard to the forum that was held last month and was very, very well received. I was also on Channel 2 with regard to both of those 2 items, and have the opportunity to meet on Thursday of next week with a group who is very interested in what the Human Rights Commission does. As a result of the meeting that we had, thanks to Commissioner Iguano, with the forum, I had 4 different telephone calls commenting on how well done that theft identity program really was. And interestingly, how well it was received, and interestingly also was the fact that so many people have been personally affected by it. It seems to grow exponentially, and I think that we have, because of that opportunity to hear that particular program, an opportunity and as well as an obligation to look at what we need to do in terms of protecting ourselves and others. I will report back on our next committee meeting or commission meeting as a result of the Human Relations Chair when I meet with this upcoming group. But for the time being, that's my combination report.
Thank you, Commissioner Carteret. Commissioner Janis, mediation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We've had no cases during the month of January, or so far February. And I just want to remind the public that the Human Rights Commission does have a mediation service, and it's available for your use. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Janis. Community Relations, Commissioner Carteret, you gave us your report. Hate crimes, I got 2 calls in the last month, interesting hate crimes. One was not a hate crime, one we're working with the police, but the call level is way down. People have respect for the police is showing great respect for the community. And as I said, I'm working with the chief to have another forum. Just question and answer. I think the community wants to ask him questions. We have a lot of new people in town that don't know the chief, so I'm working on that, and that is my report.
Bill, are we keeping track of those figures?
Yes, yeah, we're keeping track, and don't worry, I'm keeping good notes on everything. Commissioner Aquino, Education Forum Committee Chair. Your report?
Yes, thank you. The next forum will be Thursday night, March 25th, and it will begin at 6 p.m. And the topic for discussion will be the Patriots Act and how far we as citizens are willing to go in order to protect our freedoms and our safety. And I think that's going to be the crux of the discussion. So that will be, again, March 25th at 6 p.m., and it will be televised.
Thank you, Commissioner Guano. Now, we sent a task force to report on the Araby Cove neighborhood meeting, and Dorothy Bowens and Sly Zelnis, do you have a report for us?
Such as it is, yeah. Initially, the neighborhood meeting was going to be just that, a meeting with the neighborhood and some people from the city to talk about the issues there, come to understandings. As time went on and the meeting developed, it actually became a city council meeting, open meeting with the neighborhood. So the facilitation role that I had offered to play wasn't necessary at the time. I think there was a good turnout. There were lots of people. I think people felt they had an opportunity to be heard and listened to both sides of that. And I think, council was very receptive. And unlike a city council meeting where there's no opportunity to talk to people, this was not an official meeting, so there was an opportunity for some dialogue, for further reports from experts who know the area and the laws and where the conflicts came up, et cetera. So I thought it was a very useful meeting in terms of the opportunity for the parties, if you will, to speak to their issues. And Dorothy had a couple of things to say as well.
I attended the meeting as well, and I found it to be very interesting. I have to say there were a couple of things that I learned on a personal note as far as with the city ordinance when trucks and things can come into a residential area. I know that there was a big controversy in Desert Highland concerning this matter at one time, and I told them at that time I didn't think they could come in until 7 o'clock in the morning. And that was confirmed that night that they had to wait until 7. It was from 7 to 7 Monday through Friday, and I think it's from 7 to 5 on Saturdays, and they cannot come in on Sundays at all. So it was very informative for me, and I did learn a lot. So I will be able to take this back to Desert Highland on tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you both commissioners. Holly, our student member, do you have something to say today?
Today I want to pass out some Black History Month pins that say, remembering the future, remembering the past, shaping the future. And I also want to pass out some famous dates in African American history. So, just want to pass them out.
Okay, thanks very much, Holly. And again, school is closed today, so that's dedication. We appreciate it. Now we're open for commissioner comments. Any commissioners have comments? I bet Commissioner Zelnis does.
Yeah, somebody will always do. My usual couple of things. First, this Sunday is the PFLAG meeting, Cathedral City Public Library at 2:30. So after the Celebrate Our Diversity at the Morris Kite Gate Tree at the Leisure Center, you can come over to the Cathedral City Public Library for the PFLAG meeting. The name of the speaker escapes me, and shame on me, but the speaker is a person who will talk about the ineffectiveness, essentially, of reparative therapy. He was involved in some context with the so-called ex-gay movement. So it will be an interesting meeting, as well as the usual PFLAG opportunity for support, 2:30 at the Public Library. Also, point of information in your packet is the notes from the last meeting of the Homeless Task Force, which was January 20th. As I mentioned at our last meeting, there are various subcommittees who are working on elements to a report, the definitive report on homelessness in Palm Springs in particular, but also, of course, we'll get into some of the rest of the valley as well. So that's, for your information, to keep you up on what specifics are going on with the Homeless Task Force. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Zelnis. Any other commissioners have a comment?
I just have a few. As we all know, this is the month for Black History Month. The parade will convene on Saturday, February 28th, and right now we have over 32 entries for that parade, so this is one of the best that we've had this year with this many entries. And they will even have, I think right now there's 4 floats that are going to be in the parade. Also, the Soul Food Dinner and Fashion Show will be held on Thursday, February 19th, and that will be held at the Ramada Inn. Right now, I don't have prices on that. I will be attending the meeting on the 18th of this month along with Commander Hall for the hate crime task, and I will be also meeting with the Chief of Police with that also, so I am working on that committee as well. I still attend all of the meetings the second Tuesday of every month at Desert Highland, and I take any information that I have, I do keep them informed on that. And I think that's about all.
Okay.
I am out there working. And I will be in a parade on Saturday in Moreno Valley.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bowens. And I just want to add 2 quick things. I try to get a car, one of the antique cars for the parade, but they're not in town. So we don't have a car yet. If I remember correctly, we walked last year. But the application I'm putting in, and I guess if we get a car, somebody email me quickly and we, just tell them we have a car for the parade.
How many is going to be in the parade?
Well,
Okay, I will see what I can do as far as a car go. If you don't get one, email me and let me know, or page me.
well, yeah, try to get one because I can't get one of those. I mean, I don't know any convertibles other than those 2. I know the best, but I don't know any other convertibles.
I'll
Okay.
try.
Thank you. And one quick that I left out that I just wanted to say that I was very honored. I've been elected to the board of the Friends of the Palm Springs Animal Shelter. I'm now the CFO, and I'm the head of fundraising. And Mr. Mayor, you'll be hearing a lot about us in a study session soon. We're going to try to build a new shelter in Palm Springs and cost the city $0. So, yeah, that'll be.
It's a good price.
So
Good price.
that's another project that I've got going. Okay, now it's time. We'll go to our agenda. First up, Assistant City Manager Troy Butzloff. You're here to discuss the Brown Act. And it was really Commissioner Aguano had some questions, so I'm going to turn it over to him, and he could direct the questions and, have your discussion.
Hi, thanks for coming.
Not a problem.
The conversation came up when, actually, I had 2 articles, and I think they're on this, yes, they are on this agenda today, and I introduced them, I read them as part of my commissioner comments, and I opened it up for discussion and was informed that that might be in violation of the Brown Act. So I'm curious to find out what the ramifications are, what are the details of the Brown Act. It's my understanding, after reading the Brown Act, that the law was intended that there would be no public discussion on anything that a commission or a council would be acting on. Now, is that an incorrect perception?
That's partially incorrect. Let me just maybe as a preface, let me say a little bit about the Brown Act. Most states in the nation have an open meeting or sunshine law, which requires the public agencies within that state to have open meetings. In California, that's known as the Brown Act. The Brown Act was signed into law in 1953. It governs all public agencies within the state of California and some private agencies as well. The general requirements of the Brown Act are as such. 1, you have to have notice of meetings, 72 hours in advance of the meeting for a regular scheduled meeting, 24 hours for a special meeting. Written agendas. You have to have written agendas for all the meetings that you're going to have. You also have to keep records of those meetings. Those are essentially the general requirements of the Brown Act. More specifically to your question as it relates to this commission, the Brown Act does regulate all commissions, committees, and boards of the legislative body. And that is if the city council appoints or forms a commission, committee, or board, it is subject to the same rules that they are. So the Human Rights Commission, because it was formed by the Palm Springs City Council and members of this body were appointed by the Palm Springs City Council, you are a Brown Act subject committee. So you have to follow the same rules that the City Council and all other committee, commissions, and boards who are also subject to the Brown Act have to follow. Now, with respect to your question generally, can the commission have a discussion on an item that's not listed on the agenda? The answer is, in most cases, no. And there's only 3 exceptions to that rule. 1, if the majority of the members declare that an emergency situation has arisen, you can agendize it for discussion, but that requires a 4/5 vote of the body to place it onto the agenda. When 2/3 of the members present determine that the need for immediate action has come up subsequent to the posting of the agenda, then you could add it to a future agenda posting. The only other exception is if during public comments somebody raises an issue, you can have a brief response either from staff or from the commission, but it can't go into any length of discussion. So it could be, we're planning to agendize this for a future meeting, or staff will look into that and get back to you. You just can't have a substantive discussion about the item being raised. So unless the item is on the agenda of the commission of the day of the meeting, the item cannot generally be discussed unless you take a vote and the commission adds it to the agenda. But then the criteria is very narrow as to what constitutes an emergency situation that has arisen subsequent to the posting of the agenda. So hopefully that kind of explains the role of the Brown Act and what your limitations are in terms of talking about items that are not on your agenda. And I can answer any other specific questions if you'd like.
Well, what about the term added starters? How does that apply?
Yeah, an added starter is simply that. It's an item that's come up, and that's where the 2/3 comes into play. The council can add it to the agenda. If something comes up at the meeting itself, you can't talk about it unless, as a 4/5, the council or the commission agendizes it, adds it to the agenda. Something as an added starter, and the council has this quite regularly, comes up after the posting of the agenda. We, as part of the meeting, before the meeting starts, ask the council to agendize it to the meeting. And so the council will add it to the meeting agenda. And that way there is at least some notification to the public that this is being added, and that's by an official vote of the council. The commission could do the same thing the day of the meeting. They can add an added starter to the agenda. They simply would have to vote on it. What is one of the first items that they bring before the commission.
Okay, now you made reference to a legislative body. Now, was the assumption that because the city council is a legislative body and created us, that we are also part of that legislative body?
Yes, the Brown Act specifically talks about what the legislative body is, and it includes all commissions, committees, boards, and other bodies of a local agency, whether advisory or decision-making, temporary or permanent, created by charter, ordinance, resolution, or formal action of the legislative body are called legislative bodies.
Okay, now, again, you used the terms, and this is what I saw when I reviewed the Brown Act, advisory or decision-making. But if we as a commission are neither going to make a decision nor advise the city council, doesn't that take us out of the purview?
No, because you are still formed by the council, by an act of the council, and your members are appointed by the council, that still comes under purview of the Brown Act. Some bodies, such as the Planning Commission, they would definitely come under, because they're a policy-making body.
I understand that.
But even commissions, committees, and boards of the city council, if the city has a role in its formation, and I'll give you an example, the Budget Task Force, which was really a committee that was formed by the Economic Development Corporation. However, the council did participate and actually appointed members of the communities to sit on that task force. That was subject to the Brown Act, because of the council's involvement in the appointment process to that task force. Same goes for here, because members of this commission were directly appointed by the council. It is subject to the Brown Act. Now, if you were, for example, the homeless task force is not a city creation. That was created by individuals within the community who have an interest in the homeless issue. That is not subject to the Brown Act, because it has no direct relationship to the legislative body of the city.
Okay, and I certainly will accept your advice and position on this. It strikes me, though, that that's a very narrow and strict reading of it, and of course we're going to adhere to it because we serve at the pleasure of the city council. I just find it strange that as a commission that deals with human rights and civil rights, that we aren't able to discuss issues that we would not be making recommendations on, we would not be advising on, we certainly wouldn't be legislating on. And that's my understanding of reading the Brown Act, at least the spirit of the law. But
well, don't get me wrong, you can talk about items that
right, they just have to be agendized.
Correct. And that's really because the public has a right to know. I mean, the Brown Act was essentially implemented because there were a number of meetings being held by public agencies in the state of California where the public did not know what was going on, and a number of people, including the League of California Cities, talked to Mr. Brown, who was a state legislator at the time, and said, we need to do something here to make sure that these meetings are open to the public and the public has a right to know what's going on. Now, what I've just had Lee pass out is kind of a summary, and I think it's a really layman's version of the Brown Act, and it really goes into more detail about the issues that I've discussed today about what is a legislative body, what does it constitute, what can be added to, or what items can be discussed at a meeting, what do you do when you have a non-agenda item. I think it'll be a helpful document for you to have. Commissions, committees, boards don't typically get into Brown Act issues because it's an area that we traditionally don't have a lot of problems with because, one, you're mainly advisory. You don't take actual, you don't make actual decisions that have policy implications. So, like the Planning Commission, they're definitely much more rigid on the Brown Act. I think with boards, commissions, and other bodies that are not as policy directed, there seems to be a little bit of I don't want to say a relaxation of the rules, but certainly we're not as conscientious about how they're applied. But nevertheless, the Brown Act still applies, and there are consequences for not following the Brown Act. So we have to be vigilant about those consequences to make sure that we're not deviating from what is required under the Brown Act. And I think as long as the Commission follows those standards of providing proper notice, which Lee takes care of, making sure that you stay to the items that are on your agenda and only add items if you take a vote of the Commission, and those items that are added have to meet that criteria, and then keep records of your meetings, which I know Lee, again, takes care of. You're following the Brown Act as it was prescribed.
Okay. And I certainly don't want to see more ornery about this, and it's not my intention. I really do want clarification. And you did use the term, the public has a right to know what's going on, and we serve as an advisory committee, and it's my position that nothing is going on short of a discussion, and we are not advising anybody about that. But my question is then again, if I read an article in the LA Times that I find of import to the Commission, an interesting article on civil rights, human rights, something that's happening in France, for example, was the last issue, and I wanted to bring up a discussion on French policy, and was told I wasn't able to do that. So now, if I want to discuss an article, and this is the question, and then I'll accept your answer as gospel. If I wanted to discuss an article from the paper, point it out to the Commission, and suggest that this is something that's interesting and we may want to have a discussion on, am I allowed to do that?
The Brown Act does not prohibit commissioners from making comments. So if you have a comment, oh, I saw an interesting article, I want to bring it to your attention, that's fine. You can do that.
And I could read the article?
At the discretion of the chairperson, obviously you can read the article. So you could do that. You just couldn't have a formal discussion at that meeting. What you could ask is that the item be agendized for a future meeting, and then it would be the chair's prerogative to go ahead and do that. But there's nothing in the Brown Act that prohibits council members or commissioners from raising issues that they want to bring up, as long as there's not a formal discussion of the body and an action taken. That's where the Brown Act steps in. So you can have that comment, you just can't discuss it formally.
Well,
Mr. Buskla.
Oh, I got a question.
The mayor wants to say something.
If he brought that article before the meeting started and said, you know, this is information that has come up, what would be the process?
It could be added to the agenda if it had some sensitivity, time sensitivity, or it was an urgency, and the commission as a whole voted on it to add it to the agenda as added starter. You could do that, but again, you have to evaluate whether or not the addition of that item rises to the level of where it becomes an urgency situation to add it to the agenda. Because the Brown Act is very particular. It says that items that come up after the posting of the agenda, which is 72 hours, have to rise to a certain threshold in order for it to be added to the agenda on the day of the meeting. So when you do that, you just have to make sure that you've reached that threshold and you feel comfortable enough as a body to add it to your agenda. And again, it takes a 4/5 vote to do so.
Mr. Busloff, then let's say hypothetically that something happens in the community that is disruptive or violent or something, and the agenda's already been posted. What would be the procedure then?
I think if it's like a current event, something that occurred after the posting of the agenda, let's say you had a hate crime, for example, and the commission was having a meeting, but the agenda was already posted, and the commission really wanted to look into this issue or address this issue. I think something like that, because of the sensitivity and the urgency and the fact that it did arise after the posting of the agenda, would constitute a legitimate action of the commission to add it to the agenda as long as the 4/5 vote occurred. If there wasn't 4/5, then you couldn't add it. It would have to. It would require that 4/5 vote.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your insights.
No problem.
I have a question too for you, and it may be in the body of this. I haven't had a chance to read it. What about an ad hoc committee for a specific purpose? Are they exempted from, or is that a part of the Brown Act?
No, ad hoc committees, again, are governed by the Brown Act. Whether the committee is temporary or permanent is if it was appointed or formed by the legislative body. In this case, I'm referring to the legislative body being the City Council. It is governed by the Brown Act.
Anybody else have a question? Commissioner Aguano, you're happy? Your question's been answered?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and if I forgot, I want to thank very much the Assistant City Manager, Troy Booth, for thank you for coming.
No problem.
I know you're a busy man.
Thanks.
And speaking of busy men, we have somebody up next, and we're very honored to have the Mayor of Palm Springs, Ron Oden, here, wants to speak to us. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will only be able to speak for a few minutes. Obviously, I'll be late for my meeting.
Okay, well, I'll tell the city manager you're coming.
Okay.
Follow the Brown Act.
You know, I just want to say that I was very much encouraged by your question and the discussion, having the Assistant City Manager here to discuss those things, because I think there are times as commissioners that you encounter situations and sometimes you just kind of muddle through them rather than getting all of the information. So I think the discussion was very, very healthy. And there are things that come up that you want to talk about, and it's important to know how to bring those issues forward. So I just want to say I appreciate that. I started my community activity through this commission. As a matter of fact, I was appointed to the task force that made a recommendation to the council to establish a commission and to adopt an ordinance. So this commission, in a very real way, is a part of my life. And I believe in the tenets, and I believe in your mission, and I want to thank you for the work, the service that you provide. It was good to hear the reports and where you are involved. You know, initially what we did is that with the commission, is that we went through and looked and actually identified all the different organizations in the community that we felt confident that we needed to have some sort of direct connection with. And we divided those up among the commissioners so that each week we came back to our meetings and we had something specific to share about what was going on. It was important because there were issues taking place in the community that, being the eyes and ears of the council, that we felt it was important to bring back that information on a consistent basis to the council. At times we hit a little impasse with some of those. Because we had people who wanted to be on the commission, but they weren't as active as they should have been. And sometimes it was temporary because of health problems, et cetera. And other times it was consistent. And as the chair and as a member, there were times we had to ask people directly, you know, is this really what you want? Do you want to be a part of this commission? Because frankly, we need your help. This is a very active commission, I think, in ways that are different from some other commissions. Because in order to really have your finger on the pulse of what's going on, you have to be out there. And no one or single individual can be in all of those places, but with all of you, you can begin to do that. but there are other ways that it can be done, and that is by truly utilizing the resources in the community. You have different activities that you're concerned about, but it doesn't have to be a commissioner. I mean, certainly you need a commissioner who's attached in some way, but there are people in this community who want to get involved and to do some things. And the more that you involve them, the more they know about what's going on with the Human Rights Commission, and that flow of information back and forth really improves everything for the city. You know, years ago, I made some recommendations to the commission because I have a vision for the commission that's bigger than simply being in this room and listening to the things that we listen to, and what it can do for the city of Palm Springs. First of all, when we started, we had no funds, and we went for quite a few years without any funding. We paid for out of our own pockets our mediation training, and we had a contest to develop our, what do you call it? I can't think of it right now.
Letterhead, logo.
Our letterhead, our logo, and everything. And so the community really got involved. We had lots of entries from students to professionals, and the community came alive, and they were involved in that process. But we stopped short of developing some consistent funding so that as a commission, you can do some things. One of the things that we talked about and made a recommendation to do is that the commission should have in every business in this city your mission statement. And every business in this community should have it posted, the same as they have saying that I am a member of the chamber, that we support the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission mission statement, which said thus and so, and each year that there's an annual membership charge. So you pay for your initial plaque, but you pay each year for the annual year to hang on there so that you know that they're current, which creates a consistent funding source for you to do things. What are some things that I think that I'd like to see done is a regular recognition of people within the city, first of all, who represent the theme and the mission of human rights. People who are just doing good things in our community, and we recognize them with a certificate. Now, I'm not sure if you want to do it once a month or on a weekly basis, but consistently. Then I think it would be important to look outside of the city. You know, we read every day in the paper of someone who's doing something in this valley that's just outstanding. Well, what prevents the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission, which is unique in this valley, and I mean, we've gone through efforts for years trying to duplicate on a regional basis what we've been able to do in this city. So the work that you do, you are to be proud of because people are trying to duplicate it. And to recognize people in this valley. Now, let's say you do this and then annually you have an event where you recognize people who have done exceptional things. And maybe you give out a human rights award for the year. And that can be done in different categories, if that's what you choose to do. But you can even make it bigger. You can look, even as this thing grows, and you can look and recognize people who are doing things that are exceptional within the country. Why not? And those people could be invited to the gala that you have, and they receive an award from the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission. Now, the reason is that we have a unique opportunity, and we have a base now. You have credibility. And when you recognize someone for doing something, in our community for helping human beings or for living in a way that represents the fact that they care about people. When you give them any type of recognition, it's something to be proud of, something to be esteemed. So I see that we have some unique opportunities for funding, for gaining recognition, not only in the city, but I mean, and let's face it, when you recognize these people, the media is going to follow that, and they're going to say, they're going to do stories and follow up on those. So it begins to create an environment of caring in a different sense than we're able to do today. So I didn't take it as far as I could take it because I just want to provide you with some of the vision. You can make this happen, and I can tell you that there are people who just want some things to do. Now, one of the things that I'll be talking about on Wednesday, as a matter of fact, in the State of the City, is our volunteer program. People are always saying, well, anything you need me to do? Well, we're going to take them up on that. And we're going to find things for people to do because, you know, it's like soldiers. If you train them to be soldiers and you lock them in the barracks, guess what? They're going to fight each other because you've trained them to fight, so they're going to fight someone. We have so much talent in this community that if we don't utilize it in the right way, hello, they'll find something to fight about because they don't have enough constructive things to do. So we have a very active and involved constituency. We want to provide them with opportunities to use their talent and ability to make Palm Springs the best city that it can be. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Anybody? Because we know the mayor's late for his meeting.
And even though I am late, I'll take a...
Anybody have a question for the mayor?
I do, Ron, and
Yeah.
I really don't want this to sound like a complaint or a whine or anything like that. One of the things that we consistently deal with in putting together programs or events or initiatives or whatever is the need for staff support. And, you know, I know Lee's got her fingers in about all of the pies in the city, and we just can't ask her to do like some basic clerical kinds of things that we as a group typically don't have the time to do either. I don't know, we had some conversation a year or two ago about hiring a temporary person, using one of the local agencies and bringing somebody in for a couple of hours. Of course, it's, you know, it's dollars that you know, we either have or don't have to spend. But, you know, that one of the things for me as a frustration is not the lack of interest or motivation to do things, but just the overwhelming sense of the detail legwork that goes into organizing some of the things that you're talking about. And I'm not saying, you know, can we get some help from the city? But, you know, is there a possibility? Are there people at the city who would be willing to, you know, kind of go above and beyond to help out with that?
I think that you could probably use Channel 17 to put out a clarion call to say, these are some things that we need, and if you are interested, please meet us, date, place, time.
We need some of those volunteers.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think it's there. And I understand your frustration because over the years, as a commissioner, we encountered those same things. And volunteers are great, staff are better. Especially when it comes to certain organizational things. So if you can follow up on some of the other things that create a consistent funding source for you, then you can have a staff. And I mean, who knows? I mean, this organization could grow to the point to where you actually establish a nonprofit component just to handle those things. And I mean, it can happen. And soon. So definitely, I can see some ways that you can address that without coming to the city. I mean, certainly there are resources like Channel 17, but I think you can address all of those concerns.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yes.
Commissioner Janice.
Yes, Mr. Major, I like to whine.
That's all right. We have some cheese over here, too.
You say we have credibility now due to our own doing. But I find it very embarrassing sometimes when, in my position as mediator, and I have a case, and I have clients, and I wear my mediation badge that was issued by the Dispute Resolution Center, and I can see the look on their face like, who are you? And it's difficult to give any sort of identity to Human Rights Commission. We brought this issue some time ago if personal business cards would be allowed with the Human Rights Commission, and I guess it was turned down because it never happened. What is your response to that?
Well, at one point, we did issue cards, and there was some abuse of that, and people were misrepresenting themselves at places and times when they should not have, and it created more problems than the benefit. So we have not revisited that issue in a while. However, maybe some sort of identification or badge for when you are functioning in that capacity may be a little different, something we could look at. So, and first of all, I want to say I don't think that it's a card or even a badge per se that gives you credibility. But I think that there are times when you are in a situation where at least it identifies who you are and your purpose for being there. So I think that there's some things that can be helpful. And I think that you are very creative people. And perhaps there are some ways of doing things that we haven't thought about. So, we would certainly be open to suggestions or recommendations. Maybe it's not a badge, maybe it's not a card, maybe it's something entirely different. But you'll come up with it and we'll take a look at it and say, never thought of that. That's a good idea. But if it helps, we're willing to assist, I believe, in any way that we can.
Any other questions for the mayor? No. Well, Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you
It's
for
a
your
pleasure.
enthusiasm, for your
Congratulations.
ideas. You gave us a lot of ideas, which will have to be agendized for our next meeting, and we're going to discuss all of your ideas. But no, thank you for what you're doing for the city.
These came up subsequent to the posting of the agenda, so.
Yes. And we will follow up on everything. And just thank you. Thank you for the time and for your ideas and your enthusiasm.
And for your student member, I just want to say it's good to see you there and to see you out in the community as well. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor. Okay. Number 3. How ironic that this is the next. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Guano.
Before we move on, is this the appropriate time to agendize those items? Or should we wait until?
It's up to you, Lee, because I was going to say at the end of the meeting, you wrote down all his ideas, the mayor's ideas. We could agendize all of them now, and that's our next meeting. Is that okay with the rest of the commission?
Or we could wait till number 5 on our agenda, where we...
Okay. Very good.
Good idea.
Very good.
All right.
Very good. So let's start with number 3. The mayor was number 2, so number 3 is a discussion on the purpose of the Human Rights Commission. And do we want to have that discussion today, or because we have a lot of items?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Why? What do we do as a commission? Now, we do educate, and we do mediate. Okay. Are those our sole functions? And it's a question I'm throwing out. I'm curious as to what my compatriots sense is their duty as a commissioner. And again, I think I'm very transparent in my feelings. I'm very much into the educational part. I'm also very interested in the philosophical discussions. I mean, that's what I thrive on. I enjoy doing that, and I would hope we can get some of that there. So that's my bias. But I'm curious as to what my compatriots on the commission feel about that, or what their role is.
Okay. I agree with the education. I think the education's important. I'd like to see us have more discussions on topics that are of interest. I'd like to hear I don't know what all you people think. You don't know what I'm thinking about a certain subject. And I think we do a good job on mediation, but we don't promote it. I don't think people know we do that. We have 2 people on this commission that are mediators. Commissioner Zelnis and Commissioner Janis both do mediation. And maybe that's something we have to discuss. We have to do a better job of getting word out to the community that we do mediation, because that's important. And I'm open for all comments here.
I think it might have been a discussion some time ago in a similar vein, that given our mission statement, which we all know and love and have talked about changing, but never quite get to it, because it really does speak to a lot of things that we represent. And it seems to me that we've kind of translated that mission statement into two major functional areas, being education and mediation. And I think we've done a good job on both of those. What I'm feeling the last year or so is a lack of proactive stance on the part of the commission. Like, we kind of wait until people have issues for mediation and come to us with them. I mean, not that we're out beating the bushes looking for problems, but we tend to take more of a reactive role than a proactive role. And talking again about the Journey to a Hate-Free Millennium Wall that was initiated 2 or 3 years ago. That was initiated by the Human Rights Commission, collaborated with the Public Arts Commission, got involved with Ramon Academy and local artists to work with the kids to put that together, and having more of those proactive kinds of things. And I think given the nature of the community and some of the changes in the community, and obviously changes around, construction, we've had, hot issues like the Araby Cove issue. The Section 14 plans is a hot one. What's the name over in my neighborhood? Huddle Springs, the new development there. There are lots of things going on that are bringing people out. And I think that's a good thing. And while people are coming out and seeing what's happening around them, there are bound to be differences of opinion, disagreements, et cetera. And I think, the city generally has taken a real proactive approach with more of these community meetings. At the same time, I think as a commission, we can be a lot more proactive in seeing, what can we do, not necessarily to address problems or potential concerns, but to do, more fun things. Not that we're going to do another Journey to a Hate-Free Millennium Wall, but that kind of positive contribution to the community that I think it is incumbent upon us to initiate, and then if we can also take advantage of the resource of Channel 17 and get more people from the community to participate with us. And I think that's something in my whole time as a commission has been problematic, that we ask for participation, and what we do ends up being members of the commission who get together and work on a particular project. And so I'm racking my brain, as Ron was talking about, tapping into the resources in the community, and how do we do that effectively? And I don't have an answer to that. And Channel 17 is certainly a good resource, but we have not been real successful in the past. And I think it's certainly a good resource to tap.
Well, let's try and change that.
Yeah.
But the only thing I agree with a lot of what you said, Commissioner Zelnis, but some of the issues are political. They're not human rights issues. I don't think every issue is a human rights issue. I don't know if the Araby Wash is a human rights issue. I don't think it is. I don't think Section 14 is a human rights issue. Certainly, hate crimes is a human rights issue. Discrimination is a human rights issue. Identity theft, it's a little bit of a stretch, but that's certainly we can make it a human rights issue. But I don't want to get involved in politics. I mean, the city council, they're proactive, that's their job. We're here to serve the people, I think, on a different level, that's all. So I think before, if we decide to get very active on an issue, we'd have to decide, do we really belong in that issue?
Yeah, and I don't mean to imply that we should be part of the Section 14 discussion or the Huddle Springs. I don't, but I'm just using those as an example.
Right. But like homelessness is certainly a
yeah.
perfect issue for us.
Sure, yeah, but issues that are bringing people, I almost said out of the closet, I certainly didn't mean that, bringing people out of their living rooms and more into City Hall. I mean, it's not uncommon anymore to have a couple hundred people, standing room only at City Hall, regardless of what the issue is. And I'm just using that as an example to say we're becoming more and more aware of each other. And, we will have differing perspectives and differing opinions that will manifest themselves in any number of ways. But I think, a more proactive approach from us would make a positive difference in the community overall.
I think we all agree with you on that. Commissioner Aguano.
And so, in order to actually do something about this, do we, as a commission, have to decide on a format, or do we just wait until one of us, and I'm not suggesting this is a bad alternative, but do we wait until somebody has a feeling about something and then brings it and puts it on the agenda? I mean, what would the procedural position be?
I don't know, Lee, do you have any ideas on the procedure? Or, I would guess, let me just bring an idea forward. We have to agendize it. I mean, that's one of the problems. I mean, I know like why the Brown Act is there, and it's a good act, but it delays things. If something's very important, we could get that 4/5 vote as an emergency. If it's something happens within the community that we should be responding to immediately, now we know we get the 4/5 vote, and I think we all would do that.
I'd like to add something too, that I think that one of the things that I've been attempting to do as the chairperson for the task force that I'm responsible for in community relations is to go to the community, both in newspaper, television, radio, and so on, to really talk about what the goals and what the commission stands for. Had the opportunity to read this very statement on radio the other day with some response that I did not expect from, again, a telephone call said, I didn't even know you people existed, which really was a bit of a surprise, but I think that it may not be a formalized kind of a situation, but the opportunity to go out to the community and let them know that, first of all, that we exist, and secondly, what we do, and the educational component, I think, is a very vital one. But I think we need to really talk about how true it is to improve human relations, and that was my message.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commissioner comments on this topic? Commissioner Zellner. Commissioner Zellner. I didn't mean to turn my mic off.
One of the things, and Ron had mentioned early on the days of the Human Rights Commission, and we used to do this too up until a year or two ago, of having each of us be assigned or take on a particular aspect of the community and be the liaison with that community. Now, it always sounded good, and when we went through that process of who would connect with that particular community, it made sense, but nothing ever really came of it. It sort of became a nominal affiliation in name only, but didn't result in actual building of relationships with different communities, or let alone more applications for Human Rights Commission appointments when it came time to do that. So, maybe that concept, but done differently, could still work for us.
Commissioner Bowens.
I remember that, and the one that I had was Desert Highland. Now, I'm still working with that community. So I am, letting them know what's going on with the HRC.
Okay, and I think that we're all pretty busy within the community. And maybe one of my mistakes was, one of my goals when I became chair was to shorten the meetings, because I wasn't enjoying the meetings a year and a half, 2 years ago. They were just too long. But now, like today, when I gave the report, what I'm doing, we all should be responsible to come back here and say, well, what have you done in the last month? Who have you met with? And as for the Human Rights Commission not being known, we're really trying to get the message out, and not to knock the average public, person, but some of them don't know who the president is. And that's not my fault. I mean, you have to bring them dragging and screaming and say, we're here.
Exactly.
But I think that, like next month, at our next meeting is March 8th, we all should be responsible for saying, this is what I've done. This is who I've met with.
Good. And
try to get to grow from there. And if the meetings are a little longer, fine, they'll be more interesting. But that's my comment on that. But we're all active in the community. And also, as your chairman, I'm going to crack down on attendance, because I really think it's terrible that a lot of people want to be on the commissions, and then once they get on, they disappear. And that's wrong. I mean, I've missed one meeting, I think, in 3 years for the election. And I just think this is a responsibility to be on a commission. And you have to show up or give up your seat and let somebody else have it. That's my comment. Are we ready? Should we move on and see what else we can unearth today? The next topic, possibility of showing the movie Journey for a Hate-Free Millennium. I brought this up with Lee and put it on the agenda. I called Brent Scarpo, and I thought I've seen the film, but I missed it when the Gay and Lesbian Center showed it. I had another appointment. I was really impressed when we had the identity theft forum, when they put the film on.
Yes.
From the post office and whoever else produced the other film. And I thought, gee, wouldn't it be great if let's find out how many people really watch Channel 17, if we would give over a forum and say, let's show this movie, because there are a lot of people, most people in the city haven't seen it. So I did call Brent Scarpo, and we're talking. He doesn't want to show the whole movie, which I understand, but he's willing, and we have to discuss this if we want to do a forum, that he would put together a forum, we would be part of it, and then he would show maybe 30 minutes or 35 minutes of it. And at the end, say how people can get the movie and order it, because it costs money to do that. I have to find out. I don't know. Could we do that, Lee? Is that legal? The first thing that came up in my mind is maybe we can't have a forum and then say if you want to get the movie, there's a charge.
Yeah, then we'd have to check with Channel 17 as
Okay.
far as rebroadcasting another publication, what kind of rights we would have to have them agree
Right.
to, and then if
Okay,
it's...
so I should check with Rick, right? I'll check with Rick on
Yeah,
that.
he could
what the
probably
procedures are.
advise us, because we can't do any publicity, for a for-profit type organization. We'd have to be careful if we were encouraging people to buy something.
Okay, so I'm going to check.
I'm sure
But-
Rick Lee with Channel 17 would be able to give us a more definitive ruling on that.
Okay.
And that's perfectly understandable, but the idea of having a forum and showing clips, I mean, this is the whole notion of copyright laws, where as educators, for instance, in schools, you're not allowed to show a whole show, but you can show a percentage, or you can duplicate 10% of a poem, for instance, and discuss it without providing copyright remuneration. So I like the idea of having a forum.
Well, that's what I want. What do you people think of the? Because I went to Brent Scarpo first because I wanted, would he have any interest in doing it, and he really was interested. My idea was to show the movie, let people see the movie and get educated. But so
Right.
should I go back to him now after I talk to Rick and find out what the?
Yes, by
Yeah.
all means.
But, the caveat is that we cannot
Exactly.
promote private enterprise.
Right.
And he needs to know that up front.
Right. And please note, I didn't go ahead with any other discussions until it was agendized.
Truly. Well, you remember when we had the forum in conjunction with the Grapes of Wrath, the One Book, One Palm Springs effort, and one of the panelists was a film expert who wanted to show clips of the Grapes of Wrath and be able to talk about, minimal, like 2-3 minute clips, and the movie people nixed it. They said, you can't do it. Now, Brent Scarpo, of course, is the producer, director, certainly has the control of that film, so if he wanted to show clips, I would think he could do that.
Right.
I think now, I don't know if his company, Brent's company, New Light
Media,
yes. If they're actually for-profit or if they're a nonprofit.
I'm going to find out.
Yeah,
Now,
because I don't.
I wanted to
know
I wanted to
don't
first
know
speak
if
to the
that's-
commission, get the
Yeah.
parameters, and then move forward and find out what's going on with that. So I'll call Brent tomorrow, and then I'm going to talk to Rick Lee, and if we can do it, fine. I know that I didn't want to take the ball and run, and then come back here and everybody say, nice job, but what about us? Because we're our commission, we all work together. So I will follow up at the next meeting and tell you what happens on that, okay? Next here's the interesting procedure for placing items on the agenda. Commissioner Iguana.
I would defer to Lee.
Well, previously, we had our committee, if you remember, the Executive Planning Committee, and that consisted of the chairman, the vice chairman, the Education Committee chair, and then we rotated another member. And that committee consisted primarily to set the agenda. Right now, how items are placed on the agenda is someone will call me and ask that it be placed on. I don't know if you want to continue with that. If you would like to have the chairman decide what's going to be on the agenda, I guess I would prefer that someone on the commission decide what's going to be on your agenda, or at least someone have the oversight to make decisions as to whether you want something on or not.
And as long as it comes within the 72-hour limit, it doesn't matter
We don't have to have a consensus that we want this on the agenda. Anybody can agendize an item for discussion.
That's the way it is now, yeah.
Okay.
And that works. And actually, we do a little bit longer than 72 hours just because your agendas are mailed to you. I mean, 72 hours is the minimum, but you may not get a complete agenda when it's mailed to you.
Can we use email? Is the email correct? If everyone emails me, and then I send you one email and say, these are the things on the agenda? And let's say most things that you ask for are going to be on the agenda. The agendas are usually short, so I'm not going to sit there, the dictator, no. I mean, if you want something discussed, it'll be discussed.
Well, I like the idea of shifting the responsibility for doing that to the chairman.
Yeah. No, it's fine with me. Yeah,
Anybody
that's
wants
fine.
an agenda item, instead of calling Lee, we refer it
Yeah,
to
Lee
Bill.
is very busy. I mean, I'm very busy, but I'm always on the computer, as you said, Joe. You get a response right away,
That's
so. Okay, so from now on, just send me something 72 hours before the meeting, and it will be on the agenda. Okay, Lee, is that fair?
Yeah, we'll usually put out a little reminder, and that way somebody can determine the order of how they would like the business items placed on there in case something needs to be discussed sooner than something else, if someone has to leave or somebody's going to be here to discuss something.
Okay.
And I don't think it's necessary, we disbanded that, was it a committee? We disbanded that committee in lieu of, since our meetings were short, doing it at this meeting, and we could still do that. I can tell you.
Yeah, I
We
agree,
don't
yeah.
have to have a formal
That was like that
item on the
Tuesday
agenda
meeting.
to
Yeah.
say, I'm sorry?
Yeah. No, I agree with what you're saying. Go ahead.
So we don't have to have a formal, or do we have, or should we put a formal item on the agenda to write the agenda, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can include that as kind of just a standard item, maybe up under the reports, upcoming agenda items or something like that. And that may serve as a reminder to you to bring items forward. But I know a lot of things arise between when we have this meeting and our next meeting that you'd want to put on an agenda. And if Bill is the clearinghouse, that'll help a little bit. At least he'll know as chairman as to what's going to be on the agenda. And if we get to where we're having 14 or 15 items, he may determine that one or two can wait for
Prioritize,
the
sure.
next
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay. I've always wanted to be a clearinghouse.
All right, there you go.
So I will take that responsibility. It's my
Non-profit,
pleasure.
of course.
Non-profit clearinghouse. Publishers clearing.
So long as your prize patrol comes to my house, you can call yourself whatever you want.
That check is very big. You better get double doors. Any other comments on the agenda? Okay, the next is a discussion regarding the newspaper article Headscarves in France, a non-issue. And we just got the article today for the first time, correct?
Well, but I read it last time.
Right,
At the last
okay.
meeting. And I guess this is mine?
Yeah, this is yours. This is
Okay.
Commissioner Guanas.
My thought was, I already said what I have to say about that in my commissioner's comments. And if anybody else would like to comment, please feel free to. My suggestion right now would be to move 6 and 7 folded into number 9, and possibly do this as an upcoming forum topic.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that okay with everybody?
I agree.
And I would also, well, we're going to get to 9 very quickly because I would fold number 8. And I called Lee with this question. This was given to me, Steve Brown from the Desert Post Weekly called me. And he's been a good friend to the commission, and he wanted to discuss Walmart. And I said, why you want to discuss Walmart? He said, is it really a good thing for Palm Springs and for the community? And do you think it's a Human Rights Commission's topic? And do you think you want to do a forum about it? So I said I would put it on the agenda, and I think it's
Well,
interesting.
It is interesting, and again, we're balancing city politics with human rights issues. It can be seen as a human rights issue if you weigh the workers'
Well,
rights to a decent wage, if there is such a thing as a right or privilege, that would be a topic of discussion, versus citizens who are on fixed income and a right to have provided for them a reasonable source of sustenance. I mean, that's one way of looking at it in terms of human rights issue. And if we want to discuss that at an upcoming forum.
No, we start number 8, the Walmart.
Yeah.
that's why I have it listed. I mean, there are 2 sides to the Walmart coming. I mean, You know, I mean, that's why we have a supermarket strike going on right now, and they're not here yet. But on the other hand, senior citizens and a lot of people on fixed incomes
Right.
love Walmart.
Right.
Because they save money, they get their prescriptions. I read something in the Wall Street Journal, I know we can't talk about it right now, but supermarket prices go down on an average of 20% when Walmart opens up, a
Yeah.
super Walmart.
They go down
They go down.
in Walmart or
No,
in
they go
other
down,
stores?
they go down in competing supermarkets because they have to compete with Walmart.
Their prices are cheaper, so.
So, well, okay, we're discussing forum topics, so I'm open to anything, any of Joe's topics, the two here, the Walmart one. I'm going to work on the Brent Scarpa one. So, comments. Okay, Commissioner Janis.
Now, are we talking about future
Agendas.
Yes.
agendas,
We're talking about future forum topics,
That's
I
it.
believe.
future
Right.
forum topics?
Yeah.
First of all, let me premise this with the thought that Commissioner Zelnick was referring to being proactive. Now, it's some time ago, we all had a purpose here. We had identity. We were assigned to different subjects. And I recall being assigned to mediation and senior issues. And I don't see that on our agenda anymore on the reports. Now, when I say senior issues, I can come up with items that are taking place at the Mizell Senior Center, the events that are very interesting to the seniors who could attend some of the lectures that they have there, and also with the California Senior Legislature. There are many proposals being prepared for next October's general session. Amen on that. As far as a topic for a future forum, I've been toying with the idea of getting the 3 assemblymen for this district, not district, but PSA they call it, 21, which involves the Riverside community and the Palm Spring area. There are 3 assemblymen and 2 senior senators who would be, I'm sure, can be persuaded to present their proposals at this meeting to get some feedback and possibly make addendums by the ideas that may come up. So I throw that in as a possible forum in the future, and I'll try and work that out. The other item is the fact that it would still be good to have it on the agenda for senior issues, and I'll attend to that in a timely manner.
Thank you, Commissioner Janis. And I'm very interested in senior issues, so, I don't think you have to be assigned again. We could do mediation committee plus senior report, and we'd be glad, because if there's a Human Rights Commission, seniors are so important, especially in this community. So take the ball, run with it, and bring us reports, and we'll discuss your forum idea. I think it sounds great.
And Lee can change the report to mediation committee chair and senior.
Right.
Good.
Okay.
And sort of, I guess, a little bit of devil's advocacy here. It was my understanding that in commissioner comments is where we would pull in all of our individual, other activities to talk about that. But, I'm fine with having a specific item for senior, but just keeping in mind that we've got opportunity to talk about.
Yeah, I think under commissioner comments, we could say anything, what we're doing, but I think maybe having down the word senior comments would be a great thing, because it'll definitely have to come I appreciate Commissioner Janis that you want to do that. That's important. And maybe it has been overlooked, and we apologize if we've overlooked that. So now we're still discussing forum topics, or your topics.
Yeah.
See, I haven't read the articles, so I think I need time to
Okay.
read before I can even discuss. I mean, I remember you did read most of it, but I think maybe we could put these 2 topics for the 8th. Would that be to agendize it to the next meeting, so at least we know what we're talking about, which I think the public would appreciate, and I would too.
Well, again, this goes back to where we're
Right.
feeling our way, ladies and gentlemen of the public. We're feeling our way through redefining what we're doing as a commission. And so if we seem,
Well, I have a question for Lee, just pertaining to your topics. What would happen, say before Joe brought these to us, Commissioner Guano brought these, he had sent us all a copy of it 2 weeks before or a week before. We could agendize it, right? And we've already read it. Maybe we have to go that one step and say, if you want to put it on the agenda, fine, but provide us with the information to read before the meeting. Sort of like the city council gets a book like this, they have to read,
Yeah.
so we know what we're talking about. How's that?
okay, and that's another question regarding the Brown Act. If one commissioner emailed all the other commissioners, they would have to be very careful as to what their email says.
Yes, for example, in this situation, if you knew that you wanted to discuss these newspaper articles, if you had conveyed that information to the chairman, and he said, we would like to discuss these newspaper articles, and here they are, I would make copies of them and send them out with the agenda packet,
Okay.
so that you would have them in advance of the meeting to read. Did you have them in your agenda packets?
Yes.
Yeah, but we haven't read them yet, that's my point. But if we had it, this is nobody's fault, but if we had it before the meeting, then we could have a discussion.
And again, my intent wasn't to have a full-blown forum on this, although it seems to be something that we can discuss. I mean, it was an issue of separation of church and state and how two countries, France and America, see these things completely different. And it wasn't my intent to take a position one way or another, or to even have the commission take a position one way or another. It was just a point of interest, pointing out complexities of Richard.
I was just going to say, I did have a chance to read it, and it's a very interesting topic, and I think one that deserves a good deal of discussion. Whether it be a forum, I'm not sure, but definitely I'd like to see some time devoted on the meeting of the 8th to a full discussion of both of these articles. One of them I can really relate to very personally because of my background in dealing with a situation very, very similar. And I'd like to have the opportunity to discuss that at the meeting on the 8th, and I think that would be a time, whether or not, as I say, it comes to a forum, we may determine on the 8th at the time that we discuss the headscarves particularly.
Are we discussing March 8th?
I believe that's our
Human
next
Rights
meeting.
Commission meeting, okay.
Yeah, right.
Right, that's our next business meeting. March 25th is our next forum, which I'm hoping we're going to have, because I don't have anybody, you know it.
No, I don't.
No, because
I mean,
Commissioner Elliott's running that one, so
Right.
I would have to speak to her. So, well, we could do that on the 8th.
Okay.
Now-
And I also, Joe, in follow-up to your Rehnquist criticized the sentencing restrictions, it was just in the last week or so. In fact, I cut out an article for myself, but I'd be glad to provide it with Lee to send out in our next agenda, specifically about the disparity across the country from state to state in the application of the death penalty. And, from the forum we had a year or so ago, and, clearly, at least two sides to the issue around the death penalty, that this update article, which was actually fairly thorough in talking about the different uses across the country, ties directly in, so we can sort of have some follow-up to a forum as well.
I think we're all on the same page. I mean,
Yeah.
I think what we're saying is we want to have discussions about important topics amongst ourselves. Doesn't have to be a forum. But now we know that to have that discussion, we have to have the material beforehand, how to agendize it. And I think that would make the commission more interesting for the people watching, and it's more interesting for us.
I concur.
I agree.
Which might mean we don't even have to have forums.
Well, we've discussed that, yeah. I mean, we could have a forum amongst ourselves once in a while and take up 2 or 3 topics.
That's right.
And we could have an ad in the paper, an announcement saying the Human Rights Commission's going to discuss 1, 2, 3 topics, and maybe the public wants to come and put their input into that. And that's it's not a forum, but it's a forum, it's a discussion. And that's what we should be doing, I think.
Did you not get your packets in a timely manner? We mailed them on Tuesday, I believe. Have you not had time to read them?
Yes.
Do I need to
I
get them mailed sooner? Is that what I'm hearing here in regards to the newspaper articles?
No, I think the point that Bill is making, and I concur. Well, we have this article, very nice. Joe did talk about it at the last meeting. And had we known as a commission that this is going to be procedure in the future, we would say, okay, let me review this and sit down and take notes for the meeting and be prepared to discuss it. And so we don't look foolish in front of the public.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay. Now, should we go on to discuss what we want to agendize for March the 8th?
Okay.
Because we've had some ideas. I don't know if I could make a blanket statement, but I'd like to take all the ideas that Mayor Odom gave us
Well, I would
and discuss them.
Rather than a blanket statement, I'd like to spell them out individually. Because I also, and then what we're going to discover probably is we're going to have a very long agenda, and then we're going to have to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And we'll leave that up to you unless somebody else has a strong feeling about it. I like the idea of the distributing of the mission statement. And the way he presented it, it wasn't just a mass mailing to local retailers. It was a mass mailing of an introduction to the fact that we would like to honor people. Well, I don't know. Again, maybe I'm getting ahead of our.
I think you're mixing the two up.
Right. He suggested that this would be presented as a certificate, perhaps framed, perhaps on a plaque, that certain businesses are recognized by the Human Rights Commission as being supportive of human rights. And that not necessarily to punish people, but to promote people. Now I guess we have to be careful about which business gets selected and which business does not, and does that open us up to liability issues?
Well, I've got a different slant from him. I don't think that we pick the business and say, you're wonderful for, human rights. I think we go to a business and say, here's our mission statement on a plaque, and for $25 a year or whatever, we'd like you to put this up in your store. And that says to the customer coming in that the owner of that business knows we have a Human Rights Commission and understands these facts and agrees with the mission statement. I think maybe people that don't want the plaque are going to look bad. I don't know. But I think we don't pick the business. I think in general we go through Palm Springs. Maybe we break up, Palm Canyon into 4 sections and we go in like salesmen and say, give them a plaque and say, for $25, we'd like you to hang this up so people coming in know that you know about the Human Rights Commission, you support, our mission statement. And that's it. And the store owner would be proud to have the plaque. We don't pick the business.
Okay. Well, then let's agendize that and discuss the details.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Now, excuse me, along with that, will the certificates be with that too? Where he was saying something about choosing a person, an outstanding person?
That's the second
one.
That's
the second.
No, I'm asking, can that be put on there as well?
Oh, yes.
No, I think so, yes.
The recognition awards.
Right,
Yeah.
the awards.
Mhm.
And what we'll do is review what we've done in the past.
Right.
Some type of guideline.
Which is interesting. I'm sitting here and I think Slide pointed this out, that we've discussed on numerous occasions the rewriting of the mission statement. We even had one of our summer institutes or summer gatherings, whatever we called it, to discuss that, and we actually caucused and had subcommittees. But were you a part of that?
No, I don't remember that, though.
I can't believe that
was
there were only 2 members on this commission that are more senior than me. I find that fascinating. But maybe, and maybe it's time that we can revisit that. I personally remember Jim had a very good one. I hope, Jim, you still got your notes? Because I liked that one. And
Well, I
it's
like that
something,
idea. I like the idea of revisiting
maybe we
it.
can revisit it.
Yeah.
And let's do something. Instead of just, let's do something. Let's determine that we really want to make a change and maybe update the mission statement. But we have to do that before we put it on the plaque. We have to have
exactly right.
We have to have the same statement that we stand by on that plaque.
So I guess then the agenda item would be revisit the mission statement?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that gives us all a heads up. You know what, Lee? Maybe we need to get this information out more than 72 hours ahead of time so we can gather our notes. I don't know if I have any left. I hope Jim does. Sly, do you have your notes from that?
such as they are, I probably
Okay. All right, so we got that
that.
agenda item. All right.
Well, other things, Commissioner Janice wants to speak.
Yes, I hear in the undertones of our discussion that the Human Rights Commission needs more recognition in the public. Now, my question is, why we're not taking advantage of the newspaper where it has a special events section? In my Toastmasters Club, we get free advertising, and they identify when we're going to have our meeting and what time and location. And I've never seen the Human Rights Commission meeting mentioned in there. And we must have contacts with the Desert Sun.
Well, our last forum was in all the papers.
I mean, on a
Which-
weekly basis.
Which is both good and unusual.
Okay.
In the past, we've had, it was like pulling teeth to get any recognition for the Bill of Rights, discussions of the Bill of Rights. What are the possibilities of getting our agendas published in the paper? I mean, is it possible that they can devote a little corner of the newspaper once a month to Human Rights Commission agenda? Is that something that,
If we pay for it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, really?
Mhm.
Okay. Maybe we need to find out how much that costs. It might be something that if we talk about generating funds as a
Yeah.
nonprofit,
But you
maybe.
see, I look at that idea of the plaque as a way to get our name out all over the city.
Mhm.
I mean, I think people would walk in and say, what is, who, and then the store owner could say, it's the Human Rights Commission, blah, blah, blah. The newspaper, it's very hard to get things in. I mean, the Desert Sun, and they're just not thrilled to give away free space.
No, and I can attest to that. We did get an information piece in the Desert Sun with regard to the forum for the last time, but it's very difficult to have them put down with any consistency, make sure that not only agenda items, but meetings in general are covered. I'd be willing to pursue that again and happily will do so. But saying that, I know that it's difficult for them to give us the time and space unless they're notified much in advance and have a time, or very little time, I should say, in which to put the information. But I'd be willing to pursue it, and will do so.
And while you're doing that, find out how much it would cost to have a
Yes, I'll
little
do that
corner
as
of the
well.
newspaper.
Okay, thank you. Anything else we want to put on the agenda that we remember that the mayor stated?
I have one question.
Sure, Commissioner Bowens.
When will the other person be put on the commission, HRC commission? Do we know anything about that?
It seems as if they are waiting to fill all of our vacancies at once. And the deadline is, I believe, the end of March.
March 31st.
March 31st.
So they're
Commissioner
waiting.
Aguano and Commissioner Cataret's terms are up, so.
And Commissioner
It-
McCullough's seat has to be filled.
Right,
Excuse me.
and so it appears at this time as if, at least the notice that went out said there are 3 vacancies currently on the Human Rights Commission, so it looks like they're
Kind of
going to fill.
do them all together, so they won't just do an appointee for the remaining of his time.
They may just
For
wait
2
till
months,
all the
they'll just wait.
applicants are in,
Okay.
right, yeah. Commissioner Aguano and Commissioner Cataret are eligible to continue on the commission.
Thank you.
As long as we brought it up, there was some discussion at a previous meeting about the city council examining or re-examining the purpose of the commissions. Has that officially been decided by the city council? Do we know, has it been agendized on their?
No, it hasn't been agendized, and I think they're too busy worrying about the budget and other issues to look at. I mean,
Because there was a suggestion
there
that
was a
perhaps they were-
suggestion
they
by
were
one person
delaying
on the
appointment?
council, but
Are they delaying,
Yeah.
replacing Mike McCullough on the?
it's going to be done at the same time everybody's
Okay.
either reappointed
All
or,
right.
it's going to be three people, not just Mike McCullough's seat. So, and I think they've, dropped the plan. And if any of the, city council people want to know what we do or any other commission,
Invite them.
they're all invited. They're invited. And Channel 17 is on. I watch the other commissions, and I've learned exactly what they do and who they are. So we don't keep anything a secret.
I feel like that was one of the reasons the mayor was here today, so that he could give us an idea of what he expects for the HRC Commission.
Right.
I mean, with him being here today, he gave us ideas of things that he possibly would want us to do in the future.
And that's why we're putting him on the agenda, because I think he had a lot of good ideas. I also hope he goes back and tells the city council what he heard today.
I think he will.
Yeah, I believe he will too. What else do we want to put on the agenda? We have how many items, Lee? I know one of the things the mayor said that I thought was important was giving awards to people outside of Palm Springs. Looking beyond, to be honest, I've always been thinking of Palm Springs. And since we are the only commission like the Human Rights Commission, we should look beyond Palm Springs. If somebody does something noteworthy or wonderful that anybody knows, let's bring them in and give them an award. And that's another way to get our name out.
Now, so we will be discussing that formally
Right.
next meeting.
And you know, as we talk about how we are going to go about having our mission statement displayed and also about the recognition awards, you might want to consider forming task force of, 2 to 3 of you to look into that, especially when it comes to the mission statement. If we're going to have plaques made, the cost of those plaques, what you would feel would be a fair and adequate amount for a business to pay to display that, keeping in mind you want to cover the cost of the plaque and then also use it as a fundraising. And then the awards, if you're looking at not only locally, but the valley, and then I think you almost indicated nationally, and
Right.
if you want to go the route of a banquet, what that would entail and costs and all the associated things that would go along with it. So you might, as we bring those up next time, might want to think in terms of subgroups to work on those and to do some of the legwork involved. But right now, I do have that, the mission statement in businesses, recognition awards, revisiting our mission statement. Then we also have the 2 newspaper articles, the Walmart, is it a good or bad for a city our size? And then I also believed we were going to talk about the movie.
Right, yeah, I'm going to come
It's a
back.
pretty
Okay.
full agenda.
It sounds like you're going to be prioritizing.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
we
won't-
have
We
to.
won't
That's
get
what-
to everything. Or Lee, can we put everything down and just go through it, and then at a certain time, we stop discussion and...
Sure.
and-
Sure, I think so.
Right, we can keep an eye on the clock.
Yeah,
and then-
Right,
because that's
No, I
a pretty
agree
full
with
agenda.
Yeah, and I doubt if we'll get to it all.
I don't think so.
but I think we all have common sense. We've been blessed on this commission, so
Okay.
we could just work with what's in front of us and look at the clock if we have to and figure out what's more important.
And I'm sure I don't have my notes from the discussion of the mission statement, so if either Sly or Jim has that
Okay.
stuff and can get it to...
Yes, I'll look into that, and I have it on the computer.
Great.
But while I'm on the line, I'd like to mention that even though His Honor the Mayor mentioned we should reach out beyond Palm Springs, there's something in writing that says we're restricted to Palm Springs. We might look into that.
That might be with mediation. And like with hate crimes, I really can't, I can talk to people in Cathedral City if they call me, but we can't act, we can't do something. But I can't imagine if somebody in Rancho Mirage does some wonderful thing and it's in the, that we shouldn't be able to just recognize them and get our name tied up into Rancho Mirage as well.
Legal question that you could ask the Assistant City Manager? Okay.
Because I know with hate crime, I got a couple of calls from out of Palm Springs. I talked to the people, and then we can't really do anything. We can't take action. We can't have, bring the Palm Springs police or any of those people involved, because it's that city's problem. And I'm sorry they don't have a hate crimes task force or a human rights commission. So, but I liked all the ideas that the mayor gave us, but I can't say that because they have to be on the agenda next time and give an opinion. So are we all agreed that we have a full agenda for the
Yes,
next meeting?
indeed.
And that we may not get to all the items, so
Right.
we're going to prioritize.
Exactly.
Good.
Right. Any other comments before I turn to Commissioner Janice?
I just want to say
Okay.
that this has
Because
been
I've been here for
a very
months.
inspiring and a good meeting, even though we went over our regular time.
No,
But it
no,
was-
we still
I
have
know,
time. We still have time.
But it's been a very good meeting.
Thank you. I agree. And maybe we got set in our ways, so it's time to shake things up a little bit and, see what we can do. Shake up the city a little bit, get people aware. But now I will look at Commissioner Janice because I have missed him so.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner Janice.
I'm very impressed with your disguise on this day, Lincoln's birthday. And with that, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all for watching, and good night from the Human Rights Commission.